Great moment.
God,
now, Cameron, I'm copying it.
Yeah.
I'm copying. You were copying it that night. I'm copying it on the text line because I've tipped Queensland to win Wednesday night, and it's almost like this unwritten rule that you come from New South Wales. No, I'm just tipping it. Just using football. I just got a feeling. Brandy, salty Brandy. He's holding back here.
Andrew, there is the difference. If there was a Queensland commentator that tipped New South Wales, they would run him out of the state. He'd be gone.
Yep, gone. So you're actually tipping Queensland, Vossi?
I believe Queensland will win Origin 1. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So
I'm
getting
hammered here. I'm getting hammered here by people saying that this one here, stop crying about where the boys are prepped. They're prepped and ready to truck and nut regardless of location, especially you, Vossi, tipping Queensland, my Lord's son. Get around the boys, he says. Well, I don't think we don't have to be card-carrying supporters when we're in the media, do we? Do we? Or is Origin a different beast?
Well, Andrew, that's been obvious over the last, 10 years. New South Wales aren't card-carrying members of New South Wales. They're members of the media. Yeah. That's the difference. The difference between the two states is that media people in Queensland are card-carrying Queenslanders, whereas New South Wales aren't, and go for your life, boys.
So, Cameron, do you notice, it's fine to say shut out the noise, and Adam O'Brien, bringing that into the discussion, he said the Newcastle players need to get off the social media, stop reading the papers. How easy is it? Is that, you can say that, but how do you ignore the noise around an event as big as Origin, Cameron, from your time?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's everywhere you look. It's in every paper, it's on every news highlight, it's on the radio, you look outside when you're travelling between training sessions or any sort of commitment that you have with the footy side, and there's blue and maroon everywhere. So it's hard to escape it. So you really just got to try and find yourself, find something to do with your downtime in between your training sessions or any of your commitments that you have with the team, and just keep yourself occupied. I know the Queensland boys, they try and get away from camp, like to play golf, go to the beach, do something outside of football because it can consume you. That's how big it is. State of Origin. It just continues to grow every year, which is incredible to think, right? Because I think back to those, particularly the final sort of years where I played it. It was just incredible how big it was, the build up in particular. And this year, it hasn't been short of any sort of newsreels, has it? With obviously some injury concerns over Nico Hines to start the camp. Harry Grant was ill up here in Queensland, and now the Edwards injury and Tedesco back in the footy side. It just adds to the theatre of the build up to Wednesday night.
Craig says Vossi at his all-time piping best. Get off it, bro. Come on, the Blues. Get off the pipe, Voss.
I'm fine.
Pipe.
I'm just going to play straight and narrow here. James Tedesco into the squad, and plenty of questions. Again, so maybe late to the party, but if someone asked, if he plays well, New South Wales win. This is Mark in Penrith. Does he stay in the team, or do they pick Edwards for game 2? Cameron, look into a crystal ball. What happens there? If Tedesco plays well, New South Wales win. Does he then get selected for game 2?
Well, he has to. He has to, doesn't he? You don't call a guy up, with 3 days, before the game. And say he gets out there Wednesday night and just plays the absolute house down and the Blues win. You can't then just say, well, thanks, mate, for coming. We're going back to Dylan Edwards. Even though, Michael Maguire and the New South Wales selectors have shown that he is not their first choice fullback, right? They've shown that with their selection of Dylan Edwards, and that's fair enough. I think a lot of people agree with Dylan Edwards being picked at fullback, but the fact of the matter is, if the Blues are to win this Wednesday night and Tedesco is amongst their best players, how do you then drop him? You just can't. You can't do it.
Very hard. It'd be like, you can't do it. So if Reece Walsh went down and Kalen Ponga was fit and Kalen Ponga came into the side, Queensland won. Kalen Ponga played a man of the match game,
Yes, exactly.
Well, you don't drop him, do you?
Well, I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons. What if it was the other way round? Tedesco's captain of New South Wales pulls out on the weekend before the first game. Dylan Edwards comes in. You're telling me Tedesco wouldn't be recalled for game 2, the captain, or
No.
No, he'd be out.
No, well,
all right. So it's a blanket rule. You
possibly
don't change the winning side.
Well, possibly he comes back in, right? But that's a different situation entirely. If Tedesco was still their captain and still their first choice fullback, right? Yeah, it's all hypothetical. But like I'll go back to my comment I just made before. He's now not their first choice fullback anymore. Like that's clear cut for everyone to see now. After the decision was made to pick Dylan Edwards at fullback, and I think most people wouldn't argue against the fact of Dylan Edwards being there as their first choice fullback now for this season. But look, if the Blues win, and I'm sure Tedesco, he'll go out, he'll play well. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's been an Origin game where he hasn't played well or been amongst the best for the Blues. That's going to be a very, very awkward situation for Michael Maguire and their selection panel.
Now, over the weekend, we saw some of the sides. Well, we saw all the sides. Did we? Every one of those 9 sides at the bottom end of the ladder get 2 points, which has jammed the competition up as tight. Yes, even some through buys. But yesterday, we'll just start with the game that happened last. The Cowboys win, down 16-4, and got themselves out of trouble thanks to. Boy, now he's been in and around the Origin scene. I think last year was his first year in as a fringe player. Scott Drinkwater, if they needed Scott Drinkwater to come good and be at his brilliant best, they got it yesterday.
Well, he was outstanding, wasn't he? He and I'll tell you what, that's the best game I've seen the Cowboys play in a long, long time. To be able to beat that Roosters lineup yesterday, I don't think too many people would have given them any chance to beat the Roosters yesterday. They were down 6 players, 6 of their starters, in fact, on Origin duty, and a couple of their key men not being there, and they have 2 on debut. So they were up against it. Now I know the Roosters didn't play their absolute best yesterday, but you know what, that was a tough performance by the Cowboys. But just an outstanding game by Scott Drinkwater. And it was good to see him stand up, right, in the absence of guys like Tommy Deard and Reece Robson when they needed one of their key players to really just take charge of their footy side. He did that. And he was enormous. He was involved in so much. Like he was lethal with the footy when they got opportunities. I thought his kicking game was, particularly in the second half, was really smart. Like they targeted one of the Roosters' edges where I think, was it Dom Young? He just didn't seem comfortable under the high ball. Yesterday, whether or not he was struggling with injury or whatever it was, but he just played a smart game of footy and was just hard to handle for the Roosters whenever he had ball in hand. So, look, I thought he was very good. I'll tell you who else I was really impressed with, boys, was Jackson Purdue. On debut, he's been playing halfback for Mackay in the Queensland Cup.
It's good,
and he gets on debut. Yeah, he gets put in the centres, and went out there and just played, a fantastic first up match. Like he got matched up against Michael Jennings, one of the veterans and knows how to play good football, and also Dom Young. So he's coming up against a couple of pretty handy players, but he held his own and towards the end of the game, he was actually making real dints in their defensive line.
Okay, Cameron, that's talking about the Cowboys.
Positions that they don't play and excel.
Good players,
That was good.
There's now 5 teams on 14 points. So if you said, they're equal 8th, if you like. The Roosters on 4 and against, hold down 8th on 14. The Bulldogs, Cowboys, Knights, Dragons are all on 14. Who do you have as real finals contenders and not? Are you saying the Cowboys are a real contender for the finals? Yeah? Yes.
Well, Vossi. Well, if they play like they did yesterday, absolutely
they are.
And you got
okay then.
Yeah.
Have you got the Bulldogs as a real contender now? Are you growing to love the Bulldogs? What you see?
Yeah. Well, you got to take it game by game, right? And the game on the weekend for the Dogs, the Knights really didn't offer too much resistance, right? They scored 2 points early, and then that was it. They didn't really offer too much, particularly in defence like that. They let in some soft tries, but they are knocking on the door of a top 8 berth because of their effort and the way they apply themselves to their game plan. They're playing tough and they're playing consistent, and their defence. Are they sitting second or third?
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. No, they're conceding the least running metres of any side. Like, that's hard work. That's hard work. That's not fluke. You don't produce numbers like that.
No, that's right. So, Cameron Ciraldo, he's got these players all on board and believing in what they're trying to do, particularly when it comes to the defence. Like, they're working hard for each other, and they see it as important. So, as you said, the numbers don't lie. You look over, the history of the NRL, particularly the last decade, teams that have good defensive numbers go deep into the finals.
Okay, so Bulldogs are genuine finals contender. They're happy to hear that. And just one last one for both you boys. Dragons, I mean, they're all over the place. They've got this howler in them. Like a bit over a week ago, they lose the second half 38-0 to the Bulldogs.
Yep.
Then they lose the first half against Penrith on Saturday night 10-0, don't strike a blow. Come out with the first run of the second half, and the winger makes 50 metres. Within 7 minutes, they hit the lead. They win the second half 22-0. Crazy sight.
That wasn't good signs for Penrith when Sione Fainu broke through off the kickoff. And things just went downhill. But the Dragons did better. That was one of the best games I've seen Raymond Faitala-Mariner play, Vossi. I thought defensively he was aggressive, ran the ball with some power, sort of looked like he did a few years back when he was playing well at the Dogs. So, that's been a good pickup, Faitala-Mariner. Yeah. If he continues to play like that, they get those Jaden Sewer back in the side. It's a pretty good lineup.
Ben Hunt back as well.
6 wins.
Lomax.
Cameron,
Benny
6
Hunt.
wins. Dragons, are they winning you over a bit, Cameron?
Well, a little bit. I'll tell you what, they're 40-minute specials, aren't they? The Dragons. Like, they can put together a good half of football, but then most times the other half is not good at all. We've seen that. It was against the Bulldogs, wasn't it, where they come out and they played this real power game, much like the second half against Penrith across the weekend. And they went to the lead. I think it was 12-6, I think, the previous week. But then, as you mentioned, like they come out in the second half and just forgot to go out and play football. They are the genuine rocks and diamonds team of the NRL. They can be so good and compete with most teams, right? Some weeks, and then other weeks they just you look at them and just go, well, they're a shadow of themselves. So if they can find some sort of consistency, then they can push for a top 8 position. But until they can find their best football and be able to play that for at least 65, 70 minutes, then they're gonna be hit and miss.
Morning, boys. Re-Origin. Do the GOAT or Brandy agree that the mid-game coach interviews are just awkward and need to be binned, says Jace. I think they're very ordinary.
Coaches being interviewed.
Bin it. Like it's.
What do you think, Cameron? Now as a bloke, a retired player, and you're it's hard for you because you're on the network, but I'm saying as a viewer, as a fan and viewer, by and large, do you want to hear from coaches mid-half or not?
Yeah, well, I don't mind the insight, right? I don't mind the insight as trying to pick the brain of the coach sort of mid-game, but at times that they can be so focused on what's going on in the game. It's sort of
on the questions.
No, that's right.
It's tough. It's a tough time.
It's a really tough thing to do. And I know. Well,
all right, we'll put you in a difficult position there, Cameron.
Working with Billy, Billy, the last couple of series, he's very because they're going in right. They're trying to watch the footy game. He's very particular about at what part of the game and how long, and then they just got to get out. So, it's good. Look, it's good. It's good access for the fans, but at times it can be tough for the coach to sort of concentrate on the questions and concentrate on the game as well.
Now, Texas have come straight back. Have a think about this during the ad break. What if New South Wales lose on Wednesday night, but Tedesco is the Blues' best player? Does that get him picked for game 2? We'll get an answer from Cameron and Brandy after the break. This is Breakfast with Vossi, Brandy and the GOAT Cameron Smith on the Home of Sport SEN.